Picture this, it's 1738 in London. The House of Commons is packed, the air thick with anticipation. Suddenly, a man named Robert Jenkins steps forward. He's a British mariner, and in his hand he's holding a small, shriveled, frankly disgusting object. He presents it to the stunned members of Parliament. It's a severed, decomposing ear, his ear. As he gives his testimony, a wild story unfolds. He claims that 7 years earlier, back in 1731, his ship was boarded by Spanish coast guards off the coast of Florida. He was accused of smuggling, a common charge back then. As punishment, the Spanish commander, a man named Julio Leon Fandino, took a sword and sliced off Jenkins' ear. According to Jenkins, the officer then sneered, telling him to take his severed ear back to the King of England and tell him that the same would happen if the king dared to challenge Spain. Jenkins had preserved his ear in a jar of brine all those years, waiting for this very moment. The story was outrageous, it was insulting, and it was the final straw. The British public went into a frenzy. War fever gripped the nation, and soon Britain officially declared war on the Kingdom of Spain. The conflict would go down in history with one of the strangest names ever, the War of Jenkins Ear. But here's the thing, wars don't just happen because of one guy's missing ear. The truth is, this clash had been brewing for decades. It was a pressure cooker, and Jenkins's ear was just the thing that made the lid fly off. The real conflict started way back in the early 1700s, rooted in the classic Imperial squabbles, land and money. Britain and Spain were jostling for control of the New World. There was a fuzzy, hotly disputed border between British Georgia and Spanish Florida that was a constant source of tension. Think of it like two neighbors constantly arguing over where the fence should be. Even more importantly, there was the issue of trade. Under a treaty called the Asiento, Britain was allowed to send one trading ship a year to the Spanish colonies. Just one. But British merchants, being the enterprising and greedy folks they were, saw a massive opportunity. They started smuggling goods on a huge scale. The Spanish, naturally, were not happy about this. They set up coast guards to board and search any British ship they suspected of illegal activity. This led to constant harassment, seizure of goods, and occasional violence. Exactly what happened to Captain Jenkins and his crew. So when Jenkins showed up with his pickled ear, he wasn't just telling a personal sob story. He was personifying years of British frustration and humiliation at the hands of the Spanish. His ear became a powerful symbol, a rallying cry for all the merchants who felt wronged by Spain. It was the perfect pretext for a war that many powerful people in Britain already wanted. Fighting officially kicked off in late 1739. The British scored an early victory by capturing the Spanish port of Portobello in Panama, which sparked massive celebrations back home. But the initial success didn't last. The war bogged down into a series of indecisive battles fought mainly in Florida and Georgia. The Spanish laid siege to St. Simon's Island in Georgia, but were driven back. The British tried to capture the strategic city of St. Augustine in Florida, but they failed spectacularly. For about 2 years, it was a bloody stalemate. Neither side could land a decisive blow. And then, as often happens in European history, the small war got swallowed by a much bigger one. The War of the Austrian Succession erupted across the continent, pulling in all the major powers, including Britain and Spain. The War of Jenkins' Ear essentially merged into this massive global conflict, its specific issues getting lost in the larger geopolitical shuffle. This wider war raged on until 1748, and when the dust finally settled and the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle was signed, what happened to the issues that started it all? The border disputes, the right to search ships, they were mostly ignored. The treaty essentially just reset things to how they were before the war. So, after years of fighting and thousands of lives lost, almost nothing had changed. A war that began with a severed ear ended with a shrug, a forgotten footnote in a much larger power struggle.